Hello, good morning. Welcome to another live coaching. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers joining us. We've got another good set of things to go over for the coaching today. If you don't know, there's a Facebook group. You can find it right here. And we have a discussion in that group every week. Anyone can post, they can post questions, comments, videos, photos, and the whole group discusses them. And then that is what I talk about on my Sunday live streams. I do this every Sunday at this time. We've done over 100 of these, and we've got a great community. Let's get ready to dive into it. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Today we're going to talk about some travel in Europe, push loops, forward loops. Yeah, we've got some good questions. And as always, you guys can interrupt me and ask any questions. If you're on Facebook, you need to give StreamYard permission so that I can see you. I don't know if you have to do this every time, maybe. So you show up like this. So hello, Facebook user. I'm sure I know who you are, but it doesn't show up for me like this. Hey, Dennis, Herman, Max, John. Good to see everyone showing up. Jorg, hope you guys had a good week. You're having a good Mother's Day if you are or are not a mother. And yeah, let's jump into this. So, was I sailing this week? Did you sail this week? Let us know. So, Rasmus is saying silt, no sailing, too cold. Maui, we did have some sailing. We had some good swell. But then it's been uncharacteristically stormy and super windy, and not in a good way. So kind of offshore gusty wind. And the weather that we're experiencing now is more typical of the weather that we'd get in the winter with all this rain. It's been raining like crazy. So we haven't had very much. John, I hope you can get on the water next week. Dennis, sounds like you've got some wind maybe coming your way. That sounds great. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else can I go over before we jump into the Facebook coaching. One thing, I can't remember if we talked about this last week, but I'm going to bring it up again if we did, because it's so worth talking about. I'm doing a TAC course, an online TAC course that has been running for the last 2 and a bit weeks or so, almost 3 weeks. Maybe it is. Yeah, almost 3 weeks. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that when you're learning something new, like with attacking, it feels uncomfortable. And so there's this moment where you learn all the new technique, and then you feel like, oh my God, I totally understand the move now. I'm just going to go out and do it. And then you get on the water and you actually feel worse than you did before. And it's a startling feeling. And then maybe you go back to your old technique and stop. But actually, that discomfort, that awkward feeling is really, really important. And that is the awkward feeling that you need to get to in order to learn something new. So if you're trying to learn a new technique for attacking or whatever it is, you've got to get to that awkward, okay? Because that feeling is learning. And then once you work through that awkward feeling, that's when the new technique becomes comfortable, becomes ingrained, and you learn it. Because otherwise, what's comfortable for you is the bad technique. And so if you stay with what's comfortable, then you're stuck with the bad technique. And so in order to improve, in order to learn technique, you've got to find that awkward feeling. You've got to find that discomfort and embrace it, because that is learning. Mark, welcome, Jungle Jeff. All right, let's jump into the Facebook group. All right, here we go. So here's the Facebook group. Let's just roll through it like we always do. You guys can interrupt me. You know the drill by now. If you've got questions, interrupt me. We can talk about anything. All right, so first up, we've got this post from Cedric, who's saying, that he's going to be spending August and November in Europe and wants to know good spots to windsurf. He's going to fly into Germany and then head to Spain, Portugal, France, Denmark, Sweden, Ireland. No particular order, and he's going to have a caravan or camper van. Sounds like a lot of fun. So August to November is a pretty good time for continental Europe. It's good in Denmark. This is a good period in Denmark. I'm going to be doing a coaching week in Denmark in the beginning of September. So it's been really difficult to come up with dates, but I feel like I've kind of gotten there. So I'm going to release those soon. But Denmark can be good. September is a good time for Denmark. And through November, actually. And then Spain and Portugal as well. So Portugal, the wind starts to get less consistent, but I've had really fun days in Guinchu in October and September. And that's when, October, like Dom Dom says, is when sort of France starts to turn on. So you've got a lot of good options. And we've got a lot of good comments here. So Cedric, that sounds like fun. All right, we've got an equipment update from Max. So Max says he bought this new Simmer Quantum 105 liters. And how is it, Max? Have you had a chance to get on it yet? Looks good. So let us know how it goes when you get on it. You were looking for a new board. We had some discussion about that. I want to know how it feels on the water. All right, next up, we've got this post from Phil where he's trying to improve his forward loops. And I was quite shocked, impressed with his technique in this video. He's got really good, nice forward loop technique. He wants to land more on his board rather than his back, but he's got a very nice technique. Hey, Samuel. So I like to see that. And so the hardest part is already done, Phil. The hardest part is getting over the fear and learning the sideways rotation for the forward loops. That's the hardest part. So now it's a matter of refinement. And one of the things that I think is helpful is to think about the loop instead of as sheeting in to initiate it. Because we think of sheeting in as like just that back arm pulling. It's a full body twist to pull in against the sail, twist the rig. And so you're not just using your back arm, but you're using your core and your whole body, your hips, to pull in on the sail to get that rotation. And so then instead of having this back arm a little bit open because you're just sheeting in like you would just to sail a bit faster, this arm is really close to your body. You can think of it like pulling yourself over a pull-up bar, or you're just trying to really pull that down. You're trying to pull this hand to your hip even. And so pulling a lot more on that backhand will create more lift in the sail. You get a little bit more hang time and rotate also a little bit faster. And that will get you landing on the board. So really pulling in on that backhand. And the other thing, that's the main thing, but the other thing is to tuck up the legs. And so you want to go tall to ball. So when you're coming up to the ramp, you can start to go small, and then you go tall as you're launching, and then you go into a ball. So small, tall, ball, small, tall to ball. And so here with this extension, you're just rotating slower. You think of a gymnast when they're flipping, and if they're doing a straight flip, they can't do as many somersaults as they can when they're tucked up, right? The more tucked up you are, the faster you can spin. And so that will help for landing on the board. So small to tall to ball. So the two main things, Phil, are really getting that backhand pulled down to your waist like you're pulling up over a pull-up bar. And don't think of that process as sheeting in, but as using your whole body, your core, your hips, everything, your shoulders, to pull that sail and twist that sail. but nice technique. All right. So this tack course that we just did is, I think, quite a success. Pretty happy with it. And I want to do more courses like this. The basic structure is to have workshops in Zoom and then a group dynamic in WhatsApp. And so the idea is that we have these interactive workshops where I teach the technique, but we have a discussion about it on Zoom. And then while you're working on the technique, you have the group to help you through that process. And that takes place in WhatsApp. And I can be there as well to offer some insights, offer advice, look at footage, all of that. And I really like this dynamic. I think it's a good way for teaching virtually. I think having the group really helps. We see this with the community here on Facebook. You guys are such a good community, such a good group, and you really help each other. And the same is true with these classes. So what are the other topics that I can do classes on? What are you interested in doing? We've got some really good answers here. Wave sailing without waves, forward loop practice, dealing with fear, push loop. So Jan asked about the push loop, and the push loop is an interesting one because I think the push loop, unlike the forward, doesn't really have an incremental step-by-step process that you can do for learning it. And so I don't really like teaching push loops for that reason. And I was really thinking about, okay, how would I break it down? How would I break it down? And what I think would really help if you're interested in learning the push loop is learning how to do a backflip on a trampoline, a back somersault on a trampoline. I think that a back loop is very different than a back flip, but a push loop is similar to a back flip, and having that awareness of your body in that kind of rotation, I think, is really useful. And so that is actually probably the most key incremental step for learning the push loop. So it's learning back flips, back somersaults on a trampoline. All right. Wave riding. Yeah. So I like all of these topics. So I'm going to get some footage and then over the summer, try and launch some of these other courses. Back loops and flockas. Yep. This all sounds good. All right. This is an old post from Ragnar where Rasmus wrote this long comment about board length and what you do and don't want from mushy waves. And I thought this was really interesting. Rasmus obviously has a lot of knowledge and history as well, looking at these different shapes and who did what first. And I found this really interesting to read. Yeah, so I found this really interesting. And he's talking about how, in mushy waves, we should work on figuring out how to compress our body more. Small vertical foot movements. That's not how it's done in surfing. If you're really interested in the surfing skate technique, look here. This is real advice. Yeah, so I thought this was interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks for posting that, Rasmus. All right, here's an old post. Bay is still working on Wave 360s. Nice photo. So Bay, instead of hitting it here, you've got to be hitting it here, right? If you'd hit this 1 meter to the right, you would have made it. Let's say that there. All right. Update from Jan about the harnesses. He's got this setup, this kind of waist harness, seat harness setup. Happy with it. All right, we already talked about these tacks. Losing a fin. So Greg lost a fin here. Ouch. We're talking about cutbacks. And we're caught up. Can it be really this fast that we've caught up? It's crazy. My wife will be happy with that because it's Mother's Day today. But I'll show some of the pictures and photos from the last days. And if you guys have any questions, we can talk about that. This was the last swell that we had on Maui. It was kind of difficult conditions, but some fun conditions. I remember this wave was throwing quite a bit. And when they throw a lot like this, there's a moment in the air where the sail's quite dead. There's not much going on the sail, and you're sort of just flying and free falling from the projection from the lip. And those ones are the hardest landings because you're landing in front and you don't have the power of the sail pulling you. And so at this moment, I'm looking down, I don't know how tall I am. I'm whatever, 6 meters above the flats or something here, maybe a little bit more. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is how people break their legs. And so you can see how much I can press on landing from that section. But it felt good, but I was in the air. That's all I was thinking about is, oh no, I'm going to land this so hard. Just a little 360 on this corner section. Hey, Philip, good to have you here. What else? Thomas, I will not compete in the Danish Open. No. I will probably do some PWA events, but no, I have no plans to do other events. Here's a one-handed goiter. This one was very clean. This is one of the cleanest ones I've done. So felt good. I've got the video of this too. I'll post that sometime. This was interesting. Also, when you think about progress, because this is from 10 years ago, and this would still be considered innovative now. And it's funny watching old footage. I don't know. I mean, I obviously have a lot of footage of myself, and so I don't know if you guys can relate if you have as much footage. But sometimes when you watch old footage, like sometimes I think, oh wow, I'm so much better now, and sometimes I think, whoa, I was so much better back then. And it's this weird dynamic. Like, yeah, it's interesting when you have that footage record. Here, so let's see if I can play this bigger. So this day was difficult. There's maybe some interesting coaching things to learn from this. So this day was really windy, and the bigger waves were really choppy and difficult to ride because of that wind. And so I started picking off the smaller waves. So like, these kind of like whitewater waves generally you do want to avoid. That's a good rule wherever you are in the world because they're one, hard to read, and two, they're more aerated. So it's more difficult for you to hold your fins. But anyway, so I was trying to find some of the smaller waves and kind of working on just getting one hit on the waves rather than normally I'm trying to link sections because it was just so hard. And something about that difficulty kind of threw me off, I think, a little bit my normal rhythm. And so some of these turns, for whatever reason, I'm kind of struggling to get my rails engaged like I normally would. And so what's the coaching takeaway from that? I think some days are just difficult, and it's important not to be too hard on yourself and also to adjust what you're doing. And so instead of going for maybe the biggest waves like you're used to doing, going for some of the more medium-sized ones. Philip sails a lot in Handsome and in Denmark. And I feel like that's a good tactic when you have good swell or big swell sometimes in Denmark and Handsome up or Klitmøller as well. Sometimes the set waves are not the best ones because they're choppy, they're closing out, they're doing weird things. I really like this turn. I love the speed out of that. That's a lot of what I'm trying to do. Like if I think, and this one too, like if I look at if I think about what I'm trying to do on the waves, those two off the lips, like I don't like how messy that one is. And then here, I remember this one, I was completely blind. There was so much spray in my face. I couldn't see what the lip was doing. Um, anyway, so the point though is that the set waves are not always the best waves, and like Philip, I mean, maybe you have a comment on this, but I feel like that is especially the case in up near in cold Hawaii, both Klitmiller and Handsome, where sometimes the set waves are not what you want. They're too bumpy, or they're closing out, or something going on, and the medium-sized ones are actually the ones with the better shape. Um, like, I don't know, that example coming out of the 360, like that next turn is not great, but what I'm really trying to do is just force myself to hit the next section, even though I don't feel ready for it. And that's a pretty good exercise to do. I mean, you don't have to be doing 360s, but just when you come off the lip or your cutback, to just force yourself into the next turn or the next section, even if you don't feel ready for it. And then this turn, it looks kind of simple, but this is a lot of what I'm trying to do, is come up into the lip and then accelerate out of it like this. Like that speed. That's a lot of what I'm working on. And then also like this kind of thing, like doing these kind of long carving bottom turns into like an under the lip aerial. So it's not vertical, but these feel really nice. Who took this video? This was Fishbowl Diaries. What else? Someone mentioned the foiling video. Let me see. So yeah, Philip is saying in Handsome, the biggest are not always the most powerful. Medium-sized ones can get steeper. So here's the foiling video that people are talking about. So I filmed this with a GoPro, which was really interesting. It was very difficult to film, actually. I was holding the GoPro and sailing one-handed and filming with the GoPro, and you have to get pretty close to do that. And trying to capture what my dad is doing on the foil. It was really interesting. Like, it makes me think this is a really cool angle for wave sailing. And so I'm going to try, the season's kind of done on Maui, but maybe over the summer to film some other people or to try to get some footage of myself like this. And what is it that my dad's doing here? He explains it like skiing. So, my dad was wave sailing for a long time. He was one of the pioneers at Hokipa. Now he's focusing a lot on foiling. He still does wave sail. But before he was windsurfing, he was a skier and ski racer. And one of the things that he really likes about this is he says it reminds him of doing GS turns, like carving down a hill on skis. There's something similar to it, which he's really enjoying. That sail, why does it look so weird? Well, it's a 2.8. So people think it has a really long boom. It doesn't. And the idea is that it has the boom of a 4.7. And so it's got like the boom and foot of a 4.7 and then a lot less shape above, because he doesn't want to have a lot of pull, a lot of sail for the kind of foiling that he's doing. And what's interesting is this development then has also kind of helped the wave sails as well. It's really interesting for the smaller sails to push out the clue and the foot a little bit more than you normally would, so that it's still not way out there. It's something more like a 4.2 or a 4.5. But it provides so much stability for those small sails, like a 3.7 or a 3.4, which then allows you to make them flatter because you have the stability from the outline, not from the shape. So anyway, that's a bit of other stuff that's going on. Yeah, I'm surprised how quickly we got through everything. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and then otherwise I'm going to go back to my wife for Mother's Day. What else can I say? So also I got a surf skate. So this is something that you guys have been asking me about for a long time. So I got a surf skate. I got a Carver. I don't know what the model is, but anyway, I got one of these like Carver boards, not one with the like really wild trucks. It's a little bit more of a normal skateboard, but still super turny surf skatey thing. And I took it in the skate park yesterday, and I haven't skated. Like, I used to skate when I was a teenager. I was into skating, but I haven't skated in over 10 years. And dropping in, I was so nervous to drop in on the, um, like on the ramp, but it was okay. And so anyway, so I'm trying to learn the surf skate stuff and then how that can apply to windsurfing. So if you guys have any advice, because I know that some of the other people in the group are working on surf skate technique to help them with their windsurfing, let me know. We can work on that journey together. I'll try to get some footage and talk about what I'm trying to learn. And yeah, yesterday was kind of just figuring it out again, being on a skateboard for the first time, dropping in on a ramp. And like, I mean, dropping in on like a ramp is not a problem, but with these like super loose boards, it felt really weird. Um, so Traffic Cone is asking, what was the wind speed when you were foiling? So I'm not sure what the wind speed was in that clip. But I was on a 5.0 and my dad was on a 2.8, and it was it was maybe like 20 knots or something like that. So Facebook user is asking about the forecast on the dates for Klitmuller. The PWA tour, it's not fully set. So there's a little bit more certainty in the dates. We had a meeting a couple days ago, which was important I'm on the board of the PWA, if anyone doesn't know. So the PWA is the governing body for professional windsurfing. And there's a board of 7 people, and I'm one of those 7 people. And yeah, so anyway, so we had a meeting about the events and helped me to determine my dates anyway for the clinics. Rasmus, I was supposed to ask my dad about re-gluing insignia cloth, right? Can you remind me about the question? Sorry, we talk about so many things on these live streams that sometimes I don't remember what I need to talk about or research after. So can you put that in the chat or write me a message what specifically I was supposed to ask? It was about re-gluing insignia. If you get me the full question, I will, or post it in the group. Like, actually, this is probably best, is post it in the group as its own post, and then I'll get you the answer in the next hour. But I think that's the best format for it. Olivia says that he tried the surf skate and was happy to be able to move forward, and that his son is pretty good at it. Yeah, cool. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go check in on my wife and kids and have a Mother's Day. It looks like the sun is out. It's been raining like crazy. I think there's some wind. I think there's some waves. I think we're going to go down to the beach. My wife is going to go surfing. I might go windsurfing. We'll see what the conditions are like. Post your questions, comments, photos, videos, all of the above in the Facebook group. I hope you guys have a windy week. And if I'm working on these other courses, these other content, and I know that there are requests that get made that then don't happen, right? You guys make the request and it doesn't mean I'm not interested in it. I'm so busy. There's so much going on. So if there's something that you want, a video or a topic, just ask again. If you said, it'd be a great idea to do a course on whatever, and I said yes in the live stream, but then didn't do anything, please just ask again. I have like a little list of things that I'm trying to work through. It's always such a challenge because it's a matter of getting the footage and then making the video and then editing or doing the recording and then editing it and all of the above. So it's a bit of a process to go from just the idea to making it. And so sometimes things get stuck along the way. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is if you requested something and I didn't do it, it's not because I don't think it's a good idea. So just keep asking. All right, guys, have a good week, and I hope you get on the water. I'll see you next week, Sunday. Take care.